Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. My name is Dustin Cormier. Welcome. Today we are embarking on another episode of How to Rock Astrology. Today in particular, we're going to be discussing a continuation of our series talking about the moon in Sagittarius. This happens to be my own natal moon sign. I am a Tropical Vedic Astrologer, and I abide by Western measurements in astrology, but I apply Vedic Jyotish, the Indian tradition of astrology, to my understanding. And I always say, feel free to just give it a listen and see if what I say resonates with your experience. I'm going to talk about the theory behind what happens with this sign combination, and then I'm going to go into it and sort of talk about it, and from there you can decide from yourself what you think of this situation. In particular, we're talking about Sagittarius Moon with Leo Venus. Now, there is a little bit of a starvation happening on Venus from the moon, but it's not that strong. In Vedic astrology, we put a big emphasis on aspects and dignity of a planet and its sign really coming from the relationship between the planets. Venus, by being in Leo, is also starved, as we're going to talk about, because Venus is in the sign of an enemy, the sun. And Vedic astrology has ideas for why these relationships are there. Venus is a merchant. It wants to have an equal trade. But in the sign of Leo, it's in the sign of a king. So there's a kingly attitude applied to trade, which doesn't feel reciprocal to the other person. That's where that kind of comes from. Now, Venus is not an enemy to the moon, and Venus here is kind of giving the moon probably a little bit of a trine here, which helps the moon because Venus is a benefic, and that's a nice thing. But ultimately, this is a kind of a damaging thing because the moon is applying its 9th house aspect to Venus. And so it's giving Venus a bit of a heavy trine situation going on there. Now, the moon is an enemy to Venus. Venus is neutral to the moon, but the moon is an enemy to Venus. Both these planets kind of can compete for their capacity to be engaged in emotional dynamics with others around us. The moon will always win, and this is, kind of gratifying to the moon at some level, but ultimately it starves Venus. And this makes it so that such a person has a hard time being receptive or truly enjoying the water, the support from the world, from others, and the joy that we give to others that would typically be given through Venus, because the moon does it in a false altruism. It's like this is a Venus that essentially does a lot for the partner, but they do it in a way that only makes the moon feel comfortable. They do it in a way that the moon likes to do, the moon in Sagittarius here in particular. And this causes the Venus to not really be thinking about the other person, even though this Venus in Leo wants to be appreciated for doing the glamorous work that it does for the partner, by supporting the partner. They want to be appreciated for supporting the partner, for leading the partner to where they think the partner wants to go. But the Sagittarius moon, as we're going to talk about, is almost narcissistically so wanting the experience of helping that partner, basically so that the Sagittarius moon can feel better about its own path. And so that essentially they can get, by using this domineering energy, they can help the partner in a way that makes them not have to actually bond with them at an emotional trust level, or to just sit with them without doing anything. This person who probably feels like they kind of have to constantly doing things in order to feel comfortable, almost in a neurotic way. Now, these are all negative expressions, and I should tell you that I'm a Leo rising. And so whenever you come to my videos, I'm going to give you the hard possible pratfalls and difficulties so that you can see them if they are in your experience and try to be objective about that dimension of your nature. I myself am a Sagittarius moon, and I am aware of the difficult aspects of Sagittarius moon, and I talk about them openly, especially with my partner, with my girlfriend, so that she knows what to kind of expect with me and what I have to communicate about, and I have to face when my own neuroses through my particular moon sign is causing tension in the relationship, and I have to face when I know that it's ultimately a wrong thing. Although there are some times where I hug the rail and still keep doing my almost narcissistic, individuated path and ask that she gives the space for me to do that. You know, we Sag moons are independent people in a lot of ways. This is just one of those things where communication and meditation are key, so you can see your nature objectively, still cater to it, be discerning about it, cater to it when it is appropriate, but then reel it in and listen to your partner when that is appropriate. So that's kind of a rundown here. I mean, another thing I should say is that just because you have these placements doesn't mean that your moon doesn't have support in other ways, or that your Venus doesn't have support in other ways. It could have a trine, or it could be conjunct Mercury, its friend, or it can have an aspect from Saturn, which is its friend, so that it's delighted by Saturn, so that it remembers, has a genetic memory of when someone did a good, when someone was receptive to their will, and they want to continue that, so they will be receptive to the other person. And you know, Saturn delighting Venus kind of does this. So there are many things that can kind of pull you out of the nature of this combination. But what I want to say is that this is a bit of a tricky one, because, you know, you should watch my, I should say this before I do this, check out my Sagittarius moon video that I already did, where I talk an hour about this narcissistic nature of Sagittarius moon by sign. Because there's so many things that can remove this narcissism from the moon. Delight from its friend Mercury, delight from the sun, which is its other friend, which gives you a dharmic need to solidify the things that the moon represents, which is basically the connection to the energy of the world around you, the people, the love, and the family and support around you. Actually nurture them so that they nurture you back, and it sustains itself. Also, the moon can be close to the full moon, and it can be waxing, and these things are both also good qualities to have for the moon. So there's many ways to convey that can, you know, make these negative qualities that we're talking about balance, or, you know, be helped out. So just because you have these doesn't mean that you need to take the negative things that I'm saying in this video wholesale. But there are negative things to say about this combination by sign and by aspect. Essentially, both of these figures are, something is happening where the water chakra, the Svadhisthana chakra, the second chakra, is being funneled into the third chakra, the fire chakra, the Manipura chakra. And Venus and the moon are supposed to be, we're supposed to be admired for what we are when it comes to Venus and the moon, so that we don't have to work, so that we work smarter, not harder, by connecting with the right people who jive with our soul, so that they appreciate us without us lifting a finger, you know, without us doing anything, because of what we are. We don't have to do something. What we are fits in harmony with what the other person is. And essentially, that Svadhisthana chakra, that second chakra, the water chakra, would typically give us a drink of water that would allow us to sustain our path going along in our careers and towards our ambition. This, and it's usually its own thing, you know, when the moon and Venus are well placed, you know, they're typically in signs that are better for them. By being funneled into the Manipura chakra, this causes this person to have to do things in order to be loved, to have to take care of things. It's almost like the love is not based on mutual reception. It's based on a feeling of insecurity. Like, I don't think about being in relationship. I think about doing things that are going to further me in my career, is essentially what this is about. The Venus in Leo really just wants to be admired for what it does in its career, and it wants that to be what people are attracted to and that partners are attracted to. This person will generally attract partners who appreciate what Venus does in its career and who give them the freedom to not have to be too emotional. Problem is that what happens with these people is that they don't relax. They don't get the experience of not having to do something in order to be loved. And this causes them to attract people who just keep pushing them to keep doing their thing, dance monkey dance. And it's almost like you feel uncomfortable or insecure in your ability to hold a partner without offering some kind of value that you have sought. Whereas really, you should be attracting partners for a soul resonance, a shared desire to be compassionate for the person simply for the sake of actually loving them and being compassionate for them, and giving a part of your impulse in life to act to what you are, to the moon, to that shared bond of the soul with that other person, for the other person. Get yourself and your own ambitious ego out of the picture and share your life with somebody else. In this case, you probably are more interested in being a rock star, doing something amazing for the world, and having a partner to share your glory with so you don't feel so lonely. And you know what they say, a lonely looker never finds love. You're so busy on doing the ambition thing, you feel sure that your ambitions they're so clever and they're so ambitious and you push so much that you're going to get somewhere, and this is going to give you something you can swirl around so that you can catch partners by this attractive thing that you have sought. You better hope you continue to have those things that you sought when you attract a partner this way, because if your career ever goes down, if your company ever goes flat, you ever get fired, and if anything ever happens that breaks the house of cards that you captured your lover's interest with, they didn't love you for who you are when you have nothing. They didn't love you for who you are without trying. Now you're in a little bit of an awkward position, huh? So there's a pressure here to be appreciated for what you do. And that's really essentially the nature of Venus being starved by Leo. And we are going to kind of talk about that. I just want to say before we kind of go on that this moon is aspecting Venus, but it's not as bad as some of the aspects that we could talk about. This is a Vedic chart. It's the aspects that the Sun, Moon, Mercury, and Venus give. We can see that when there's an opposition, 180 degrees, that's the fullest aspect that you can give aside from a full conjunction. Then the 8th house, when Venus is in the 8th house from the moon, it's about, 3/4 of a full aspect. When Venus is in the 9th house from the moon gives Venus about a half of an aspect. It's that 240 degrees. And it might even be slightly less. So it's possible that you don't necessarily have too much of this narcissistic moon snagging and starving Venus. But it's also possible, on the other hand, that you could be even closer to that 8th house position, right? Closer to 210 degrees, which makes that a 3/4 full. So that would be like, let's see, that would be like if the moon is in 0 degrees of Sagittarius and Venus is in, no, that'd be like if the moon is at 29 degrees Sagittarius and Venus is at 0 degrees of Leo. That would really be almost like, the 3/4. right? So just something to keep in mind. This is how the Vedic people think of these trines. Really, trines and squares are not as relevant to the Vedic people as the relationships between the planets. And the moon is an enemy to Venus because the narcissistic nature of Sagittarius moon, really, I should say it this way. The needs of the moon, which it enjoys. The moon enjoys so much doing what its own thing does. Everyone, ideally, the moon and Venus are not together. So that you have an enjoyment from the moon in your own way that you don't necessarily need the enjoyment of Venus. So that way, the enjoyment of Venus is extra. It's how you give something to your lovers and the people around you that help them to enjoy you even more. But it's good for us all to have an enjoyment in ourselves first so that we can be independent in our relationship. This is an intrinsic thing in human nature, that we all get our own enjoyment first, and then we can think about the value we give to others. Makes sense, right? The problem is when the moon and Venus get involved with each other, this natural mechanism makes it so that the moon's inherent nature, when it blends with Venus, the moon kind of wins. And we enjoy what we do with the moon so much that we apply Venus, especially when they come into an aspect. It's like Venus has to make room for the moon here, which means that there's less ability for Venus to really get enjoyment for what Venus represents in its sign. Now, Venus being in Leo, we see here what's kind of happening is that there's a possibility, probably, that the moon and the sun are starving Venus here. And this makes this a pretty difficult position for Venus in particular. Not only is Venus, there's a narcissistic aspect of Sagittarius moon, which again, you should check out the Sagittarius moon video to get the full rundown on it, but it's close to its debilitation point, which means that it doesn't ask for help in its emotional reinvigoration. It doesn't ask for help in being supported. It wants to be able to do things on its own. The caveat of this is that it generally tends to not know how to ask for help or how to ask for support or how to give support. And, they kind of waste energy by doing this, because many hands make light work, two heads are better than one. The trick, the magic of the moon, the healing emotional nature of the moon and Venus is when 1 + 1 = 3. When two people are acting in a way with synergy so that they can get a job done in a much quicker way, in a much easier way. It's like, think of like one person trying to saw a big plywood board in half. They would have to hold it, and then they would have to they would find a way to lean it against a tree and then try to hit it with a skill saw or whatever. If they have 3 people, 2 people on either end, the other person puts the skill saw through the plywood, and by the magic of the 3 people, the job gets done much, much quicker in a much higher ratio. It's exponential. So this is the magic of working with other people. And the moon in Sagittarius is not used to asking for this kind of support. It likes to do its own thing in its career. Now, everyone likes to do their own thing in their career, but Sag moon so enjoys its ambitions that it will tend to not care so much about its own home team, about the people that support it. They'll take energy from that, put it towards their career, and then say, they'll throw their money in the coffer. Here's the rent. I paid the rent. Do you know how much I do for you? It's kind of, Sag moon can be guilty of saying that, but especially the Sagittarius moon with Venus and Leo. You see, the nature of this moon being directed towards ambition like it is, it tends to, again, it doesn't ask for help from people, and so it can become isolated, and it doesn't know how to hang out without doing something, without trying to show that they're entertaining and more entertaining than the other person over here. And this is part of what tires this type of personality out. Now, another factor here is the fact that the Venus is in Leo. By being in the 9th house from the moon, we see that Venus, there's a protector role. There's a role that it wants to project in play as a provider, as a loyal partner who wants to put a lot of energy into glorifying themselves and the partner. Venus in the 9th house from the moon is always going to want to be admired for the joy its actions bring to the partner in a way that helps the partner feel inspired. And they're inspired to make others feel inspired, right? This is the Venus, which is our partners, is in the 9th house from our moon. The partner we inspire and we want to inspire. The problem is that it wants to be admired for the joy that its sentiments and its romantic ideas and its, glamorized, date ideas, or even just this is a person who kind of wants to wield a person on their arm and say, I'm proud of this person, I respect this person, and they respect me. Unfortunately, because the moon is starving this Venus, we're kind of talk about that first. This is a false altruism, where really what's happening is that the moon in Sagittarius wants to be able to go further in its own career, and it wants to have its partner as something that they can stabilize their erotic psyche through, their confidence, their self-esteem, to know that they've got something of value that they caught through their action, and this allows them to push further in their own career, and they hopefully also want themselves to inspire the partner to go forward in their career as well. So this is like a power dynamic couple that tends to be a situation attracted by this kind of person, where each person is revving each other up and hoping that the other does well because of you. Although your partner might not be geared in the same way. But you'll get disappointed in your desire to inspire others because you don't spend enough time actually thinking or asking or communicating to your partner what would inspire them. You have never probably, at least according to the fact that this Sagittarius moon is so close to Scorpio, it's in the sign of a masculine planet, Jupiter, and it's in a masculine sign of a masculine planet, that's Sagittarius. The moon is not geared to think about what other people are doing. It's geared towards exploring its own mind, and Sagittarius moons can have great self-knowledge in this way, but the self-knowledge is always going to be limited because other people can tell you things about yourself that you don't realize. So this is why, again, watch that Sag Moon video. You'll get more on what that's all about. So because you've likely never really thought about how you could reach into another person's world, communicate with them, and ask them what they would want, how they would like to be inspired, how they, what they actually need for you to serve them. What could you do to actually help them and support them? The Venus being starved by the moon will do it in a way that caters to what is possible within the very hectic, busy schedule that you've set up for yourself. You give your own self a lot of ambitious time in your own career, your projects, because this is how you regenerate your energy. The moon in Sagittarius is missing the Svadhisthana chakra. That's the water chakra. The water chakra is heralded by the moon and Venus. And when the moon is weak, at least by sign, by being in a sign right next to debilitation in a masculine planet sign, it's a neutral. Jupiter is essentially neutral. But this is a planet that is putting its recreational energy and its easygoing energy, its relaxing energy. It relaxes by doing the Manipura chakra, the third chakra, the fiery ambition towards higher things. So the moon here, by doing that, is lacking in Svadhisthana chakra, which would mean for all of us, when we have a lacking moon, we need Venus to compensate by adding some kind of enjoyment that it shares with others, which others equally share on, find value in, and are ultimately sated by and attracted to. Unfortunately, your Venus, which would compensate for the Sagittarius moon, is also starved by the moon, and it's starved by the sun, and it's also dried out as well. So what this means is that you're so busy with your own ambitions and trying to do things yourself that you can be proud of in yourself, you probably want your partner to be proud of the things that you've done for yourself. It's for both of us, as you might say, but you want your partner to appreciate the things that you've done through your will for yourself. And you want to be appreciated for the things that you do for the relationship as well. But you don't necessarily make time to really think about how you could actually support your partner. You don't think about it, and you don't communicate with them about it because you're too busy revving up a surprise of doing this gift that you thought that they might like or enjoy or appreciate, without actually thinking of what they would like or asking them or communicating with them, because you probably don't actually spend a lot of time with them. Sentimental time, sitting and being okay with not having to do anything and listening to them. How well do you really know your partner? You probably know all of the things that you could say to them to make them feel better based on what you have seen that work in the past. But this doesn't mean that you consciously give yourself the time to become someone who is water, who is satisfying, who is stabilizing, who is cool and calm for the other person. So you want to be appreciated for what you do, but likely it's very possible that you're not really there for them in moments when they're mentally anguished or when they're emotionally volatile. And in fact, they'll probably come to you, and because your brain is so compulsive, because your chill factor is being sucked out through your Manipura chakra, you probably don't find times to chill and manifest the capacity to contemplate and to listen to your own needs as well as your partner's. I highly recommend you meditate in order to reduce the compulsion of your mind so that you can do this, so that when your partner comes to you with a genuine emotional need, they aren't going to feel like they're bugging you, because they probably feel like anything that they ask you to do is bothering you on your path of, like, you probably would say, look, sorry I wasn't there for you on the moment when you actually needed me, but check out this new pair of shoes that I just bought you. Look, do you know how much money it took me to get these pair of shoes? It's like the partner is like, great, thank you, I know you meant well. You'll try to support a partner, and you might say, what about all I do for you? But you don't consider what the partner actually wants or how they want to be helped. So you compensate with glamorized dates, gifts, outings, and by attaining a social class or status, which likely involves a prestige that your partner probably might not even care about or take part of emotionally. Like you might have worked really hard to get to another layer of your social status, and you kind of want to be appreciated for doing this. And your partner is going to be a fiery person who probably does at some level. But, it could be for anything. Maybe their Jupiter is in a fire sign and they philosophically are attracted to the fact that you are doing this thing. But if they have their moon and Venus anywhere outside of yours, like most people do, they're going to want a sentimental experience. You probably don't think about the earthbound, lunar, sentimental enjoyment with a family, creating memories that are actually meaningful, not taking pictures of them and putting them on a wall and saying, let's go out for another outing so we can get more pictures, put those on the wall. That's all flash and dash. Most people, most humans, want to spend time not doing anything with each other, not feeling the need or pressure to advance their career through some kind of mutual engagement. Or, like, you might feel the need to, like, sit down, like, even just, like, knitting them a sweater, or, like, being, like, a textile person who makes clothing for someone, you know? You put all this attention and all these things into this thing for this person, and they're like, great, but I just want to sit and be able to have a lovely moment with you. Not necessarily just watch a movie, but just to have some kind of thing that you show me that you've been thinking about me. I made a metaphor for this to kind of give an example of how this could go. You know, you're so busy doing things your own way, you feel good knowing that it's a big production when you give a gift or some kind of lavish thing to your partner. And you put a lot of energy into it. And the Venus in the 9th house, there's the narcissism of the moon, starving Venus, that says, I know, I'm not necessarily thinking about whether this is going to hit the mark for my partner. I'm thinking about how good I think this gift would be, right? So let's say, you know, that you are working in, like, the restaurant industry or something, and you're becoming a big, like, restaurant chain owner, and you happen to make this connection with a local butcher. And the local butcher, you save his restaurant somehow by just making some little network connection. You save his restaurant, and the butcher says, I will do anything for you. Now, you say, okay, well, me and my lover are having a get-together with some friends. I want to bring all of their friends, and I want to have 16 steaks, high-quality steaks, locked and loaded. And I want them to be delicious, and I want them to be the best steaks in the world. And you know, if you can make it cheap and, you know, a worthy deal, we could keep this kind of business interaction going. The butcher says, you know what, totally, let's do it. So you go home and you tell your partner, honey, I just did the greatest thing. You're gonna love me. What can I say? You know, like, I'm kind of a rock star here. I just went and got 16 steaks for us, for our friends to enjoy. And the lover says, honey, you know I'm a vegetarian. And you're like, but hear me out. These are the best steaks in town, and your friends are going to love them. Your friends are going to love them. Like, do you know how much these are worth? Like, I did, like, the most incredible connection to make this happen. And the lover goes, I see that there's a value there. Yeah, I get it. You really jumped on the opportunity for you to give me a lavish gift, didn't you? You know, this invalidates what the other person would actually appreciate. You know, like, it kind of, if all that you ever do for the person is give them scraps from the table that you dig so ambitiously into, even though they're giant scraps, it's still coming from a chip off of your own iceberg. You know? So with a combination of like this, you really have to do your due diligence and meditate. In my personal opinion, I'm saying that partly because you're a Sagittarius moon, like me. And the moon is in the sign of expansive, run around Jupiter. And Jupiter, I think something that you really ought to do, I've been saying this in all these videos. You're a nature person, I bet. Go down beside a river, bring a notebook, sit down beside the river, find a part where the river has like a brook, where it's like a babbling, where it's making like a white noise. Sit down and listen to the river. Try to do it. Try to build on how long you can listen to this river genuinely without having some kind of mental intent, some kind of genius plan to further in your career, some kind of brilliant scheme of something that you could show your lover that comes from your own mind again. Put the book down, sit, contemplate, and listen to the babbling brook. 10 to 15 minutes, just nothing but listening intently. Learn to enjoy listening. Learn to enjoy reducing the chatter of your inner voice, of your inner mind. What will happen if you do this is that you will develop the ability to actually listen without thinking about what the other person's saying, or without thinking about what you want to say. You'll actually listen to the person, and it might feel like an annoying reduction on your role in providing for the lover. I wanted to surprise you with how much I know about you, but you'll never really know about your partner that well if you don't just suck it up and listen to them and actually be there for them and care about them enough to give them sentimental quality time where you're with them and showing that this is a connection that is more than just this meat thrown to a dog so that it doesn't bother me. You know? This type of person is like Hades throwing meat to Cerberus, you know? Like, here, all right, calm down. There you go, lover. Are you going to stop bothering me now? Good. I am such a good provider. I'm really being extreme here, but like I said, I'm a Leo rising. I hit hard with the negative possibilities so you can see the pratfalls that could come. But ultimately, you have to understand that this is part of your nature. This glamorized gift giving, this desire to work hard on a career, to get somewhere, to be a social climber, and to even have your partner around your arm as someone who you're proud of, as a trophy, that is a part of who you are. Accept that at that level, but always keep an eye above, keep in check with listening to what your lover actually wants and needs. Even if you are an intrinsically narcissistic person, at least this will give your lover the genuine water that will help you sustain your relationships with whoever you're with. But ideally, we as human beings are well served to have a purpose more than just with what we do. We should also be inclined to not build on what we do from 9 to 5, but to actually have a soft space of letting go, relaxing, and being in a place of respite with someone who's meaningful and sentimental to us. This is part of the human metaphysical design. So if you want to work smarter, not harder, reduce the compulsions of your mind that stop you from seeing how important a true sentimental experience is. So you essentially don't feel so lonely, because this is somebody who can feel like they don't ever actually connect with anybody because they're too busy. Are you happy now? I've got Sagittarius Moon, that's why I'm so fucking giddy and weird. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed my spiel on this combination. I hope it wasn't too negative, because again, ultimately, like, I got Sagittarius Moon too. This is possibly why I'm so sharp to us, because I'm trying to whittle out my own narcissistic tendencies that can, I'll tell you. Sorry, a long video, but I'll tell you that I do this YouTube thing. I'm making this 40-plus minute video, and my girlfriend is at her house. It's in like the next town. I'm going to go there tonight late because I spent all my time on this video. But I do, this is just the Sag Moon nature. She wants to spend more time with me than I allow because I'm busy doing stuff like this. But I do what I can to accept the goodness that I do with this, and I do my best to communicate and meditate, let go of my compulsive nature, and routinely ask her how she's doing, go on dates with her, give her the quality time that most humans enjoy, so I don't feel like I'm using her, like I'm just, doing that. You know what I mean? Ultimately, you are still somebody who can be a flashy, fun lover. Now, let's see what our book, Erotic Astrology by Phyllis Vega, says about the qualities of Sagittarius Moon with Venus and Leo. This is a Western author. They kind of give it from a sort of perspective of just, being more lowbrow, just kind of coming down, less theory and psychology, and more enjoying what you are when you do finally get to connect with your lover. It's Moon in Sagittarius, Venus in Leo. Dashing and dramatic by nature. You throw yourself into romance with such enthusiasm that you seem to be playing a role in a show, playing a character. For you, love is everything when it's happening. Yet you start feeling nervous if the relationship does get too confining and has too many expectations, which is a part of who you are. Although the expectations comes from your desire to have the freedom at some level to work ambitiously towards a career that can become that narcissistic vacuum that we sort of talked about. That's part of where the nature of it feeling confining can be. Also, when your lover has an idea of what you should be doing, you, with the Venus in the 9th house, feel like you want to tell your partner what they should be doing. I'm the one who's the wise person who's helping this situation, whose ego is revved up when I can save us in our relationship. And this could mean that when the partner tries to make a point, you can get offended that, oh, I should have seen that. Fuck, why didn't I see that? No need to feel that that's confining. You know what I mean? It's just the nature of blending with another person. So this is partly where this confining comes from. But ultimately, it is still part of you. You want to be this person. There's a balance to be found there. Sociable and witty. You enjoy amusement in its various forms, and your friendly openness attracts all manners of fun-loving companions. Definitely. Behind closed doors, your physical prowess and fiery libido provide sexual endurance into the wee hours. It's the fixed Venus in Leo likes to constantly be showing its thing, and Moon in Sagittarius is very wild. Very just like, Jupiter, like, especially because the moon is that Jivatma, and it's the Rasa Lila. It's the deliciousness of the body and of the motions and of the sentiment and of the juiciness, really at some level, a lot of levels of sexuality as well. So these two in this way can be really enjoyable, to enjoy sexuality and to enjoy sensual things and erotic things for its own sake. Which is all good as long as it is a shared situation. Because the more shared it is, the more genuinely bonded it is, the longer it'll last. The more actual water there is to sustain the fire of the passion, so it doesn't become too intense and feels like the both of you are using each other without, being enamored by the artifice of the exterior of the forms coming together. Then the feeling that the two are worthy lovers for each other. That will make the water Svadhisthana chakra sustain and douse the heat of the Manipura chakra, so you can do it longer, stronger, better. I hope this makes sense. Let me know in the comments what you think. This was a longer video, but that's how it goes. Thanks so much for watching, folks. I'm Dustin Cormier for How to Rock Astrology. See you guys on the other side.